big opportunity for the hospitality space.
Leisure travel was clearly significantly higher than it was pre-pandemic, 20 to 30% higher.
Okay.
Group travel, that is corporate meetings, is approaching somewhere between 85 and 100%, depends on what market around the world you're in.
Sure.
And finally, individual business travel is sort of in and around 80% recovered. It's varied over time, but subsequent to, in the United States, subsequent to the Labor Day weekend, which was the beginning of September, we saw steady increases in business travel.
Sure.
We're seeing it in India. Mm-hmm. So I would say it is recovering. I think some of the issue is in trying to track individual business travel versus what we would refer to as group business travel, which is a block of 10 rooms or more. Some companies are changing how people are traveling. More teams are traveling together. So the actual total commercial travel that's business driven, I think is approaching 100% recovered and will actually exceed pre-pandemic levels sometime in 2023. Okay. Whether the dividing lines are relevant and you can still compare on the same basis to pre-pandemic and 2023 levels, I think is less clear. Because some companies have just shifted the way in which they are using travel and hotel stays relative to pre-pandemic. So the use cases have changed. Okay. And really the question is corporate demand coming back? And the answer is yes, unambiguously.
Sure. Then let me ask you another question that when we talk about travel going forward, we had Reed Hastings of Netflix mention a while back that the biggest competition for Netflix happens to be people going to sleep. He wants people to stay awake and watch Netflix. Similarly, we had Mercedes India, their management here, and when they were here, they said that when we talk about people buying cars, people buying Mercedes, their biggest competition is people actually investing their savings in mutual funds. So SIPs was their biggest concern. Looking ahead at 2023, what according to you is the biggest challenge, biggest concern facing Hyatt?
Wow, I think the demand picture is fantastic. Supply of new hotels has been slowed down significantly. Sure. And that's pretty much true globally. Okay. In the United States, that's been partly the result of some challenges in raising capital. In China, serial lockdowns have really created disruption on work sites. In India, I think it's a combination of both of those things. But new supply of hotels has actually been more muted. Now, this means that with rising demand and more limited supply, you're going to see continued strength in hospitality, which I believe is going to be true. But I would say as we now move into a time when more people are going to be traveling more freely because travel restrictions have come off, proof of whatever your COVID status is has largely fallen away. International schedules for airlines are starting to increase. So all of that is a positive sign, but we're going to have more limited new hotel supply. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest things that we need to figure out as we move forward.
What about work from home, hybrid working, virtual meetings? Is that not a concern for you?
It is. It creates some more limitations on people traveling on individual business trips, but also creates more need for companies to convene and have people get together. So I would say it's unclear to me how significant of an impact that's going to have. Of course, there is some negative impact if you don't have people in the office all the time, because a lot of times if you were going to go see someone for a business trip to Bangalore and they're not in their offices, there's no purpose to the trip. Correct. Because there's no place to go for the meeting. So instead, what do? You get on Zoom or something else. However, companies realize that if that persists, they need to actually maintain the culture and keep people connected. So they're going to have more meetings. So I think net, there will probably be some impact, but I think overall, not significant.
Let's talk about India now. When you talk about India, when you look at the Indian market, can you tell us about what your plans are in terms of investments, in terms of your targets here for the Indian market? Hyatt already has a huge presence, a huge footprint here. If you can give us to a sense of the number of rooms that are already here, and what would you be targeting over the next couple of years?
Yeah, so we have over 40 hotels today, and we're going to be opening, we opened 8 or 9 new hotels just this year. Okay. One of our most active years. Next year will be even better. I think we're opening 10 hotels next year. So this is actually sort of the golden age of openings of properties. Some of them are conversions, some of them are newly built, which is great, but this is after a very long time of very limited growth.
Okay.
So I would say that we're very excited about this because our focus has always been to serve markets where our guests want to travel. So of course that means you have to focus on the major cities. We want to grow across our brand portfolio in all the major cities, but we also want to cover more destinations. And the thing is, I happen to love India, and I love being here. The people, the culture, and the cuisine. I'm sorry, but I absolutely love the cuisine. And the diversity of all of those things is amazing. There's so little that's been actually tapped yet. There's so many magnificent locations and destinations that are underserved. And so I think our future plans, first we want to grow out our brand portfolio in major cities, but then subsequently to find more destination, leisure opportunities, well-being, destination resorts that I think will really showcase the magnificence of India and the diversity of the geographies that we have here and the cuisine and the cultures.
So India is known to be a very competitive market when it comes to hospitality.
Yes.
So give us a sense of what this Hyatt strategy will be going forward. Are you looking firmly at organic growth, or are you also looking at interesting opportunities that may perhaps present room for inorganic growth in terms of tie-ups, partnerships, or takeovers?
I would say our focus is going to be primarily on organic growth. We have a very broad brand portfolio. Not all of our hotels, all of our brands rather, are represented in India yet, but they will be. But we're opening some hotels this coming year. We have a brand called JDV by Hyatt, which is very boutique, lifestyle-oriented hotels. We have another brand called the Unbound Collection, and both of those will be new introductions this coming year. The Unbound Collection Hotel is a palace in Bhopal. So Nur Ul Sabah is the name of the palace. Very excited about that. That actually will open the following year, but we're beginning the works on that. So we have a lot more room to grow just organically. Tie-ups are interesting because I think one of the things that we are focusing on is well-being, and also how that ties into cuisine and how you're eating more healthfully and looking after your holistic well-being. So I think we have more opportunities to bring more well-being practices into our programming globally, but also in India. And food and beverage has been one of our core strengths, and we're continuing to double down on that effort too. And so if there are interesting partnerships that come along in those areas, we would go towards them for sure.
Fair enough. Let's also talk about one of the key triggers for the Indian market going forward. India is hosting the G20 presidency. That is something that the government is very bullish on. The government, in fact, is hosting very many delegations and conferences across 50 cities. So give us a sense, is that an opportunity trigger for you? And if yes, are you looking at perhaps banking on this in the form of perhaps ties up with the government, or in terms of hosting the wide population of delegates, scholars, corporates, etc., who will be traveling?
No question. I think the G20 is going to be a big boom for India. In fact, as we speak, there's a group of delegates that are in their first planning session in the Grand Hyatt in Mumbai right now. So, I think that this is going to be something like over 250 meetings and gatherings over the course of the coming year, which is, as you pointed out, across many different markets. So I think this is going to provide a tremendous level of exposure for India, and yes, it will be good for our business, and we have every expectation of being fully participating in that as much as possible. But that's not where it ends. The World Cup, the Cricket World Cup, is here in 24. And there are going to be other things that are going to be big demand drivers on a global basis. So I see more and more opportunities like that to really build a growing base of demand.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Newscentre. News and updates continue right here on CNBC-TV18. Stay tuned.